President Catherine Walsh stood at the center of the Great Hall aboard Nexus Prime space station. The room was huge, with a glass dome showing the stars outside. 12 different alien races sat around the curved tables, their strange forms and colors creating a rainbow of life from across the galaxy. Catherine felt proud as she looked at them all. 5 years ago, humans had been alone on Earth, not knowing that other life existed among the stars. Now she was here, speaking for all of humanity at the most important meeting in galactic history. "Friends," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's speakers. "We gather today not as strangers but as neighbors sharing the same galaxy. Humanity comes to you with open hands and open hearts." The aliens listened carefully. Some had multiple eyes that blinked in patterns. Others had tentacles that moved like they were dancing. The Centaurians looked almost human but had blue skin and silver hair. The vegan council members were tall and thin with long necks, but in one section the Zephyrian delegation sat like dark clouds. Their gray skin looked like stone, and their red eyes glowed with anger. Ambassador Kexthul, their leader, watched Catherine with hatred that was clear to see. His clawed hands gripped the edge of his table so hard that the metal bent. Catherine continued her speech, unaware of the danger growing nearby. "We propose joint colonies where our peoples can work together. Imagine what we could learn from each other, human engineering with Centaurian energy technology, vegan agriculture with our medical knowledge." Many aliens nodded in agreement. The idea of cooperation excited them. Trade agreements and research partnerships had already made many worlds richer and safer. Together we can explore new star systems. Together we can solve problems that affect us all. Together we can build a future where war becomes a thing of the past. Behind the scenes, a Zephyrian operative named Vextar slowly reached into his ceremonial robes. His mission was simple but deadly. Kill the human leader and blame it on another race. Start a war that would destroy humanity's growing power in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had ruled through fear for hundreds of years. They conquered weak races and enslaved strong ones. But humans were different. They had appeared from nowhere with advanced ships and weapons that could match Zephyrian technology. Worse, they made friends instead of enemies. Other races actually liked working with humans. This made the Zephyrian Empire very nervous. If peace became popular, their way of life would end. They needed humans to disappear before their influence spread too far. Catherine moved to her closing words. "Let this be the day we choose cooperation over conflict. Let this be the moment we decide that the galaxy is big enough for all of us to prosper." The applause started slowly from the Centaurian section, then spread around the room. Even some Zephyrians clapped, not knowing what their leaders had planned. Vextar's weapon was a small plasma pistol, designed to look like a ceremonial badge. The energy blast would leave no trace of Zephyrian technology. His orders were to fire during the applause when security would be distracted by the celebration. Admiral John Carter watched from the security observation deck above the hall. His weathered face showed pride as he listened to his president speak. Carter had fought in the border wars when humans first met hostile aliens. He knew how important this peace summit was for humanity's future. In the crowd, human security agents tried to watch everyone at once. Agent Mary Collins focused on the Zephyrian section. Something about their body language worried her. They sat too still, too quiet for a diplomatic event. Catherine raised her hands to quiet the applause. "Thank you all. Now let us move forward, into a brighter tomorrow hand in hand across the stars." That was Vextar's signal. He pulled out the hidden weapon and aimed at the human president. The plasma bolt fired with almost no sound, just a brief flash of green light. The energy blast hit Catherine in the chest. She looked down in surprise, seeing the smoking hole in her dress where her heart used to be. She tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, she fell backwards onto the stage. For a moment, the entire hall went silent. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. Then chaos exploded everywhere. Human security agents rushed toward the stage, while others ran to protect the alien delegates. Agent Collins spotted Vextar trying to slip away in the confusion. She tackled him to the ground just as he reached the exit, "Assassin down!" she shouted into her radio. "The president is hit. Medical team to the stage now." But it was too late for medical help. Catherine Walsh, the woman who had brought humanity to the stars and dreamed of galactic peace, was dead. Admiral Carter stood frozen in the observation deck, watching medics work uselessly over his president's body. His hands slowly formed into fists as anger began to replace shock. On Earth, emergency alarms began ringing in government buildings. Vice President Alan Brooks was rushed from his home to a secure bunker. Military commanders received coded messages that made their faces turn pale. The alien delegates were evacuated to safety while station security locked down every section of Nexus Prime. But the damage was already done. The woman who represented humanity's hope for peaceful relations with alien races was gone. As news of the assassination spread across human space, people stopped what they were doing to stare at their screens in disbelief. In military bases, soldiers began checking their weapons. In shipyards, workers started loading ammunition onto warships. The Zephyrians had wanted to start a war. They were about to get one, but not the kind they expected. They had just awakened a sleeping giant, and giants, when angry, could shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The final assault on Zephyrian Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces moved through the planet's defenses with surgical precision, dismantling the government and military infrastructure while protecting innocent civilians. Admiral Carter coordinated the operation from orbit, watching as his forces systematically destroyed every weapon that could threaten galactic peace. The Zephyrian military machine, built over centuries of conquest, was being taken apart piece by piece. "All resistance has ended," reported Colonel Sandra Kim from the capital city. "We have captured the entire government leadership, including Supreme Commander Thexvor." Carter nodded grimly. "Transport all prisoners to Earth for trial. The galaxy needs to see justice being done." The capture of the Zephyrian leadership marked the end of their empire, but it was only the beginning of a much larger change. Captain Peter Johnson led teams that liberated 6 different alien races that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for decades. "Admiral," Johnson reported, "the Cathari people are requesting human protection. So are the Velans, the Toxuri, and 3 other species. They want to join our alliance." The liberated worlds had suffered under Zephyrian rule for so long that they saw humans as saviors. They had watched human forces fight with honor, protecting civilians and treating prisoners fairly. This was completely different from the brutality they had experienced under the Empire. Commander Maria Santos worked with the resistance leaders to establish new governments on the freed worlds. "These people have been planning for this day for years," she told Carter. "They know exactly how they want to rebuild their societies. But the most important changes were happening in the larger galactic community." Ambassador Linda Gray addressed the emergency session of the Galactic Council, representing humanity before the assembled alien races. "Members of the Council," she began, standing where President Walsh had stood just weeks before. "Humanity did not seek this war. We came to the galaxy with open hands and peaceful intentions. But when evil struck at our heart, we responded with the full force of our convictions." The alien delegates listened in complete silence. They had watched the human military campaign with growing amazement and fear. No one had expected humans to be capable of such devastating warfare. "Let this be a lesson to all who would threaten innocent lives," Gray continued. "Humanity seeks peace, but we will defend ourselves and our allies with every weapon at our disposal. We will not allow murderers and tyrants to flourish in our galaxy." The Centaurian ambassador was the first to respond. "The Centaurian Republic formally recognizes human leadership in the former Zephyrian territories. We pledge our support for the new alliance." One by one, other alien races voiced their agreement. The Vegan Council, the Andromedan Federation, even some neutral species that had never taken sides before, all declared their support for human leadership. Back on Earth, Acting President Alan Brooks made the decision that would define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations to come. He announced the Walsh Doctrine, named after the murdered president. "From this day forward," Brooks declared to the assembled media, Any attack on human leadership or civilians will result in the complete destruction of the aggressor's military capability. We will not start wars, but we will finish them. The doctrine sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Some alien leaders criticized it as too harsh, but most realized that humans were simply stating what they had already proven they could do. Director Ben Lewis expanded his intelligence network to monitor potential threats across the galaxy. "We can't let another assassination happen," he told his agents. "Early warning is our best defense." The intelligence operatives who had helped plan the Zephyrian campaign now turned their attention to other potential enemies. They established monitoring stations throughout human space and beyond, creating an early warning system that would alert Earth to any future threats. Admiral Carter oversaw the construction of the Catherine Walsh Memorial Fleet Base in orbit around the former Zephyrian capital. The massive space station would serve as the headquarters for human forces in the region, a permanent reminder of what happened to those who threatened galactic peace. "This base represents more than just military power," Carter told the construction crews. "It represents our commitment to protecting the innocent and preventing future wars." The memorial itself was a simple but powerful tribute to the fallen president. A statue of Catherine Walsh stood in the center of the station's main plaza, her hand extended in a gesture of peace. The inscription read, "She dreamed of peace among the stars. We fight to make that dream reality." 6 months after the assassination, the trials of the Zephyrian war criminals began on Earth. Supreme Commander Thexvor and his accomplices faced charges of murder, terrorism, and crimes against galactic peace. The trials were broadcast throughout human space and to allied worlds. The evidence presented by Director Lewis's investigators was overwhelming. Video recordings, financial documents, and testimony from Zephyrian defectors painted a clear picture of a conspiracy to murder President Walsh and start a war. Thexvor showed no remorse for his actions. "You humans are still primitives," he declared during his testimony. "You don't understand the natural order of the galaxy. The strong should rule the weak." Judge Robert Taylor, who presided over the trial, responded with words that became famous throughout human space. "The natural order you speak of is the law of the jungle. Humanity has evolved beyond that. We believe in justice, not just strength." The verdicts were unanimous. Thexvor and 6 other Zephyrian officials were sentenced to life imprisonment for their crimes. Lesser officials received shorter sentences, but all were banned from ever holding positions of authority again. The galaxy watched the trials with fascination. Many alien species had never seen a justice system that treated war criminals fairly, while still holding them accountable for their actions. The human approach impressed even former enemies. Captain Nancy Wright, now promoted to admiral, took command of the new Rapid Response Fleet. These ships were stationed at strategic points throughout human space, ready to deploy anywhere in the galaxy within hours. "We're not looking for fights," Wright told her commanders, "but if trouble starts anywhere, we'll be there to stop it before it spreads." The Rapid Response Fleet included the most advanced ships in the human navy. Fast attack, cruisers, stealth bombers, and mobile command centers that could coordinate operations across multiple star systems. The mere existence of these forces made potential aggressors think twice about starting conflicts. Colonel Mike Harrison established the Galactic Special Operations Command, training elite units to handle situations that required precision rather than overwhelming force. These soldiers could infiltrate enemy installations, rescue hostages, or disable weapons without causing civilian casualties. "Sometimes the threat of force is more effective than force itself," Harrison explained to his trainees. "Our job is to solve problems before they become wars." 5 years after President Walsh's assassination, the former Zephyrian territories had been transformed into the Walsh Protectorate, a thriving alliance of liberated species under human leadership. Trade flourished between the member worlds, and scientific cooperation led to advances that benefited everyone. Commander Tony Rodriguez, now a general, oversaw the Protectorate's communication networks. "Information sharing is the key to preventing future conflicts," he told the Alliance Council. "When everyone knows what's happening, it's harder for conspiracies to develop." The memorial to President Walsh on Nexus Prime became a pilgrimage, site for beings from across the galaxy who believed in peace and justice. Thousands of visitors came each year to pay their respects to the human leader who had died trying to bring the galaxy together. Admiral Carter, now in his 70s, often visited the memorial during his diplomatic missions. He would stand before Catherine's statue and remember her words about cooperation and understanding. "We kept your promise," he would whisper to the statue. "The galaxy is more peaceful now, not because everyone agrees, but because everyone understands the consequences of choosing war over peace." The galaxy had indeed learned that humans were not to be underestimated. The species that had seemed so eager for peace and cooperation had proven capable of devastating warfare when their leaders were threatened. More importantly, they had shown that they could win wars without becoming the very evil they fought against. Other races began adopting human approaches to conflict resolution. Negotiation backed by strength became the standard diplomatic practice. Military alliances formed around the principle of collective defense. The age of empires built on conquest and intimidation was ending. The storm that followed Catherine Walsh's assassination had changed everything. The galaxy was safer, freer, and more just because humanity had proven that good people, when pushed too far, could fight harder than any tyrant. On quiet nights aboard the memorial station, when the stars shone through the observation windows, Admiral Carter would remember the woman who had brought humanity to the stars. Catherine Walsh had died believing in peace, but her death had created a peace that would last for generations. The assassin's bullet that killed her had unleashed a storm that swept away an empire of evil. The news hit Earth like a meteor strike. Within minutes of Catherine Walsh's death, every communication channel buzzed with the terrible truth. The president of humanity was dead, murdered by aliens during a peace conference. Vice President Alan Brooks sat in the emergency bunker deep beneath Washington. His face was gray with shock as he watched the reports coming in from Nexus Prime. Around him, generals and advisors waited for orders that would change everything. "Sir," said General Lisa Parker, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her eyes, "we need your authorization to begin military mobilization." Brooks looked up from the screen showing Catherine's covered body. "How many ships can we ready for combat?" "Everyone." Admiral John Carter's voice came through the secure communication link from the UES Liberty orbiting Earth. "Give me the word, and I'll have 200 warships ready to jump in 72 hours. Brooks stood up slowly. He had been vice president for 4 years, but he never wanted to become president this way. Catherine had been his friend, his mentor, and the closest thing to a sister he had ever known. "Do it," he said quietly. "Full military mobilization, total war authorization." The words spread through human space faster than light itself could. Travel. On Mars, factory workers stopped making civilian goods and started building weapons. On the lunar colonies, engineers began converting mining ships into combat vessels. In the asteroid belt, miners loaded their equipment with explosive charges instead of ore. Director Ben Lewis ran the largest intelligence network in human space. His agents had been watching the Zephyrians for months, suspecting they were planning something. Now those months of careful spying would pay off in blood. "I want target lists on my desk in 6 hours," Lewis told his staff. "Every Zephyrian military base, every supply depot, every government building. If they have anything important, I want to know where it is and how to destroy it." His agents spread across the galaxy began sending coded messages. Sleeper operatives who had lived among alien races for years suddenly activated. Human merchant ships that seemed to carry only trade goods revealed hidden sensor arrays that had been mapping enemy territories. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the UES Vengeance, the most advanced stealth ship in the human fleet. His orders were simple. Get into Zephyrian space and find out what they were planning next. "Take us to Jump Point Alpha," he told his crew. "Silent running from here on out." The Vengeance slipped through hyperspace like a ghost. Its experimental cloaking system made it invisible to most sensors. Morrison had used this ship to spy on hostile aliens before, but never with such personal stakes. He had served under President Walsh when she was still Admiral Walsh. She had saved his life during the Proxima incident. Meanwhile, on Zephyrian Prime, Supreme Commander Thexfor celebrated what he thought was a brilliant victory. The human leader was dead, and soon their primitive species would crumble into civil war and chaos. "Send word to our fleet commanders," he ordered his staff. "Prepare for human refugee ships. When their government collapses, we will offer them shelter in exchange for their technology." Thexfor had studied other primitive races that the Zephyrians had conquered. Most fell apart when their leaders died. He expected humans to react the same way. This was his first mistake. His second mistake was not reinforcing the border defenses. "Why waste ships watching empty space?" he told his advisors. "The humans are too busy crying over their dead president to threaten us." Back on Earth, Admiral Carter assembled the largest human war fleet in history. The Liberty served as his flagship, but around it gathered ships of every size and type. Massive dreadnoughts with armor thick enough to stop asteroid impacts. Fast attack cruisers designed to hunt enemy vessels like wolves. Carrier ships loaded with hundreds of fighter craft. "Admiral," said Captain Nancy Wright, commander of the Stealth Bomber Squadron, "my ships are ready for deep penetration missions." Carter nodded. Nancy's squadron carried the newest weapons human science could create: phase-shift torpedoes that could pass through shields, quantum mines that would make enemy ships simply disappear, plasma lances that could cut through battleship armor like paper. But the most dangerous weapons in the human fleet were not made of metal and energy. They were the humans themselves. Every ship carried people who had loved President Walsh, who believed in her dream of peace, and who now burned with the need for justice. Colonel Steve Martinez led the Marine assault teams. His soldiers had trained for years to fight alien enemies in hostile environments. They could operate in vacuum, toxic atmospheres, or crushing gravity. More importantly, they could board enemy ships and capture them intact. "Boys and girls," Martinez told his troops as they loaded onto transport ships, "we're going to show these lizards what happens when you kill our president." The Marines cheered, but it was not a happy sound. It was the sound of predators who had found their prey. Commander Rachel Torres prepared her squadron of fast attack ships. These vessels were built for speed and surprise. They could jump in, destroy their targets, and jump out before the enemy knew what hit them. "Remember," she told her pilots, "we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting to make sure no alien race ever thinks they can murder human leaders and get away with it." As the hours passed, more ships arrived to join Carter's fleet. Allies who had worked with President Walsh sent their own vessels to help. The Centaurians offered 12 heavy cruisers. The Vegan Council provided advanced sensor ships. Even some peaceful Zephyrian colonies sent secret messages offering to help against their own empire. But this would be a human war. Fought the human way. Captain Peter Johnson brought his ship, the UES Thunder, loaded with the newest AI combat systems. These computer brains could think faster than any biological mind, calculating battle plans in microseconds. "The AI units are ready, Admiral," Johnson reported. "They've been analyzing Zephyrian battle tactics. The enemy fights like they're still using swords and shields." Carter smiled grimly. The Zephyrians were about to learn that humans had evolved far beyond swords and shields. They used their brains as weapons, turning every advantage against their enemies. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Carter recorded a message that would be broadcast to every human world. "Citizens of Earth and all human colonies," he began, his voice hard as steel. "President Walsh died believing in peace. She was murdered by cowards who feared what peace could bring. Today we go to war not for conquest but for justice. We will show the galaxy that humans protect their own, and we will make sure Catherine Walsh's dream survives even if her killers do not." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes and fury of an entire species. Behind them, Earth continued preparing for a war that would reshape the galaxy. The Zephyrians had wanted to destroy human influence among the stars. Instead, they had just created the greatest military force humanity had ever assembled, and it was coming for them. The human fleet assembled at the edge of the Zephyrian core systems like a gathering hurricane. Admiral Carter studied the tactical displays showing the enemy's home fleet, over 300 warships defending their most important worlds. "Sir," reported Intelligence Officer Linda Gray. Our agents confirm that Supreme Commander Thexivor has pulled back almost his entire military to defend Zephyrian Prime. They're expecting a direct assault. Carter smiled coldly. Then let's not disappoint them. But first, we need to deal with their orbital defenses. Colonel Mike Harrison and his Special Forces team had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Their mission was to infiltrate and disable the massive defense platform that protected Zephyrian Prime. The station was the size of a small city, armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Remember, Harrison told his commandos as they prepared to launch, we go in silent and fast. The defense platform has to be offline before the fleet arrives, or we'll lose half our ships before the real battle begins. Harrison's team used experimental stealth pods that were nearly invisible to sensors. They approached the defense platform disguised as space debris, drifting slowly toward the station's docking bays. The Zephyrian guards never saw them coming. Team Alpha, secure the command center, Harrison whispered into his radio as his soldiers moved through the station's corridors. Team Beta, take the power core. Team Charlie, you're with me on the weapons control. The human commandos moved like shadows through the alien station. Their training had prepared them for exactly this kind of mission. They knew the layout from intelligence reports and had practiced the assault dozens of times. Command center secured, reported Sergeant Bill Chen. We've got access to their defensive grid. Power core is ours, added Corporal Janet Ross. I can shut down their shields. On your signal. Harrison reached the weapons control room and quickly connected his hacking device to the alien computers. The machine began breaking through their security codes while he watched for guards. Colonel, came Captain Jake Morrison's voice through the communication link. Enemy patrol is heading your way. You've got maybe 10 minutes before they discover you. Understood, Harrison replied. How's that hack coming along? Almost there, sir, said the technician working on the computers. These alien codes are actually pretty simple once you understand their logic patterns. The Zephyrians had made the same mistake that many advanced civilizations made. They assumed their technology was so superior that no one could break it. They had never encountered human determination combined with human creativity. Got it, the technician announced. I have full control of their weapon systems. Excellent, Harrison said. Shut down all defensive weapons and send the shutdown codes to Admiral Carter. Then we disappear before anyone notices we were here. The defense platform's weapons went dark just as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Admiral Carter watched his tactical display light up with enemy ships, but the massive orbital station that should have been firing at his fleet remained silent. All ships, this is Admiral Carter, he broadcast. Operation Hammerfall is now active. Show them no mercy. The Battle of Zephyrian Prime began with a coordinated strike that stunned the enemy commanders. Captain Amy Foster's fighter squadron swarmed out of their carriers like angry hornets, targeting enemy escort ships while the main fleet engaged their battleships. The Zephyrian home fleet was impressive to look at, but it had been designed for intimidating weaker races, not for fighting an enemy that fought back with equal technology and superior tactics. Enemy flagship is trying to retreat behind their moon, reported Captain Peter Johnson from his AI-assisted battleship. My computer systems are predicting their course. Shall I intercept? Do it, Carter ordered. Don't let any of their command ships escape. Johnson's vessel, the UES Thunder, moved with mechanical precision toward the enemy flagship. The ship's artificial intelligence calculated the perfect firing solution, while enemy plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against its shields. Firing main guns, Johnson announced. The Thunder's primary weapons sent beams of concentrated energy that punched through the enemy flagship's armor like it was made of paper. The Zephyrian command ship broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the space around the planet. But the real surprise came when the humans made contact with resistance groups on the planet's surface. General Lisa Parker had been coordinating with oppressed alien races who had suffered under Zephyrian rule for decades. This is Commander Maria Santos, came a transmission from the planet. We represent the Liberation Front of Zephyrian Prime. We have detailed information about government facilities and can guide your forces to their locations. Parker smiled as she received the intelligence data. Patch me through to their leader, The voice that answered was tired but determined. "General Parker, this is Veltar of the Cathari people. My race has been enslaved by the Zephyrians for 50 years. We have been waiting for someone strong enough to help us fight back." "Today is that day," Parker replied. "Transmit your target list and prepare for liberation." The ground assault began with precision orbital strikes that took out Zephyrian military installations while carefully avoiding civilian areas. Human Marines landed in drop pods that came down like meteors, each one carrying a squad of soldiers, ready for urban combat. Colonel Sandra Kim led the assault on the Planetary Government Center. Her troops moved through the alien city with the help of local resistance fighters who knew every street and building. These people have been keeping detailed records of Zephyrian activities for years, Kim reported to Parker. They know where every important official lives and works. The psychological warfare aspect of the human campaign proved just as effective as the military strikes. Commander Tony Rodriguez led a team of cyber warfare specialists who hacked into the Zephyrian communication networks. "We're broadcasting the truth about the assassination plot," Rodriguez reported. "The Zephyrian people are learning that their government murdered President Walsh during peace negotiations. Many of them are horrified. The broadcasts showed evidence that Director Ben Lewis's agents had gathered over months of investigation. Video recordings of Zephyrian officials planning the assassination, financial records showing payments to terrorist groups, communications between military commanders discussing how to blame other races for the attack. As the truth spread through Zephyrian space, more and more of their own people began turning against their government. Civilian ships tried to surrender to human forces. Military units refused orders to attack human positions. Some Zephyrian colonies declared independence from the Empire. The space battle continued for 18 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The human fleet fought with a coordination and determination that the enemy couldn't match. Every human ship was crewed by people who remembered President Walsh's dream of galactic peace and who were fighting to protect that dream. "Enemy fleet is requesting permission to surrender," reported Communications Officer David Lee. Admiral Carter looked at the tactical display showing the remaining Zephyrian ships. Less than half of their original force was still capable of fighting, and many of those vessels were badly damaged. "Patch me through to their commander," Carter ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was that of Supreme Commander Thexivor himself. The alien leader looked like he had aged years in the past few weeks. His gray skin was pale and his red eyes showed fear instead of the arrogance that had once defined him. "Admiral Carter," Thexivor said, his voice shaking. "I offer the surrender of my remaining forces. Please show mercy to my people." Carter stared at the alien who had ordered President Walsh's assassination. "You should have thought about mercy before you murdered our leader during a peace conference." Thexivor's face went even paler. "Surely you don't intend to destroy us completely. We surrender. By the laws of galactic warfare, you must accept our surrender." "The laws of galactic warfare," Carter replied coldly, "didn't protect President Walsh when she came to your space station in peace. You wanted war, Commander. Now you have it." The Admiral cut the communication link and turned to his weapons officer. "Resume firing. No enemy ship leaves this system under its own power." The final phase of the battle was swift and decisive. The remaining Zephyrian vessels were systematically destroyed or captured. Their great military empire, built over centuries of conquest and intimidation, was ending in the space around their own homeworld. On the planet below, human Marines and local resistance fighters worked together to capture the government buildings. Supreme Commander Thexivor and his staff were taken prisoner, along with all the officials who had planned and ordered President Walsh's assassination. As the sun rose over the Zephyrian capital city, human flags flew alongside the banners of the liberated alien races. The empire that had terrorized this part of the galaxy was finished, destroyed by the very people they thought they could murder without consequence. Admiral Carter stood on his bridge, looking down at the planet where humanity had just won its greatest victory. But the victory felt hollow. Catherine Walsh was still dead, and no amount of military success could bring her back. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory like a storm breaking over a calm sea. 200 warships appeared in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and ready for battle. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the tactical display show enemy positions. The Zephyrian border patrol consisted of only 30 ships, spread out across 3 star systems. They had been expecting merchant vessels and diplomatic couriers, not the largest human war fleet ever assembled. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. He broadcast on the command frequency. Operation Thunderstorm is now active. Show them what human justice looks like. The first wave hit like lightning. Commander Rachel Torres led 12 fast attack cruisers toward the communication relay stations that connected Zephyrian space to their homeworlds. Her ship, the UES Storm, moved so fast that enemy sensors barely registered it before the shooting started. Target the relay dishes first, Torres ordered her weapons officer. I want them blind and deaf before they know we're here. The Storm's plasma cannons fired in rapid bursts, each shot perfectly aimed at the massive communication arrays that kept the Zephyrian military in contact with their commanders. Within minutes, the first relay station was nothing but floating scrap metal. Moving to Target 2, Torres reported. Enemy patrol ships are trying to intercept, but they're too slow. The Zephyrian patrol ships were built for intimidating weaker races, not for fighting a real military force. Their thick armor and powerful weapons made them dangerous against civilian vessels. But human warships had been designed specifically to kill alien battleships. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster led her fighter squadron against the patrol ships. Her small, fast craft swarmed around the larger enemy vessels like angry bees attacking a bear. These guys fight like they're still in the Stone Age, Foster told her pilots. They're trying to line up for formal battle formations, show them what real combat looks like. The human fighters used tactics that confused and frustrated the Zephyrian commanders. Instead of engaging in straight-line battles, they attacked from multiple directions at once. They used asteroids and space debris as cover. They coordinated their attacks so perfectly that enemy point defense systems couldn't track them all. Within 6 hours, Torres and her squadron had destroyed 12 communication relay stations across 3 star systems. The Zephyrian military was now cut off from their high command, unable to coordinate their defense or call for reinforcements. But the communication blackout was just the beginning. Colonel Steve Martinez led the boarding parties that captured enemy supply depots. His Marines used new assault pods that could punch through enemy hulls like bullets through paper. Once inside, they moved through the ships with deadly efficiency. Depot 7 is secure, Martinez reported as his troops herded captured Zephyrian officers into holding areas. We've got their entire ammunition stockpile and about 1,000 enemy personnel. The Zephyrians had never faced opponents who could board their ships so easily. Human Marines wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any biological soldier. Their weapons could punch through Zephyrian battlesuits like they were made of cloth. But more importantly, the humans fought with a fury that scared their enemies. Every Marine remembered President Walsh's death. Every boarding action was carried out with the precision of soldiers who had a personal reason to win. Sir, said Sergeant Tony Rodriguez as he secured the depot's computer core, the prisoners are asking to surrender. They seem really surprised that we're not killing them. Martinez nodded. That's because they would kill us if the situation was reversed. Make sure they understand that humans are better than that, but also make sure they know what happens to people who murder our leaders. While the Marines captured supply depots, Captain Nancy Wright's stealth bomber squadron penetrated deep into Zephyrian space. Her ships used advanced cloaking technology to slip past enemy patrols undetected. Beginning attack run on military production facility Delta 7, Wright reported from her bomber, the UES Shadow. Target appears to be manufacturing replacement parts for their battle fleet. The Zephyrian factory was on a small moon orbiting a gas giant. It was protected by orbital defense platforms and a squadron of heavy cruisers. The defenders thought they were safe behind their shields and weapons. They were wrong. Wright's bombers carried phase shift torpedoes that could pass through energy shields like they weren't there. The weapons materialized inside the factory and exploded, turning the entire facility into a ball of fire that could be seen from orbit. Target destroyed, Wright reported calmly. Moving to secondary target. The psychological effect of the human attacks was even more devastating than the physical damage. Zephyrian commanders found themselves fighting an enemy that appeared everywhere at once and vanished before they could respond. Captain Jake Morrison, still hidden in his stealth ship, monitored enemy communications and was amazed by what he heard. "Admiral," he reported to Carter, "the enemy is in complete panic. Their commanders are giving contradictory orders. Some ships are retreating to defend their homeworlds, others are trying to hunt down our attack squadrons. They have no idea how to fight us." Carter smiled grimly. "That's because they've never fought humans before. They're used to conquering primitives and bullying weaklings. They don't know what to do when someone fights back." The human strategy was working perfectly. Instead of engaging in massive fleet battles that would cost many lives, they were using precision strikes to cripple the enemy's ability to coordinate and supply their forces. Captain Peter Johnson's AI-assisted combat systems proved especially effective. His ship's computer brain could analyze enemy movements and predict their responses faster than any biological mind. "The AI has identified a pattern in their patrol routes," Johnson reported, uploading new attack coordinates to all ships. The artificial intelligence systems allowed human ships to fight with perfect coordination. While enemy vessels struggled to communicate with each other, human ships moved like parts of a single organism, each one knowing exactly what the others were doing. Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Kim led a special forces team that infiltrated a Zephyrian command center on an asteroid base. Her soldiers moved through the facility like ghosts, capturing vital intelligence about enemy fleet positions and defensive plans. "We've got their complete battle plan," Kim reported from inside the captured command center. "They're pulling ships back to defend their core worlds, but they're leaving their outer colonies completely exposed." By the end of the first week, the Zephyrian Empire had lost 40% of its border defense fleet and most of its communication network. Worse, they still had no idea where the human fleet would strike next. Supreme Commander Thexfor finally began to understand the magnitude of his mistake. The humans weren't collapsing into chaos and civil war. They were fighting back with a skill and fury that surprised everyone in the galaxy. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded from his staff officers. 87 confirmed destroyed, sir," his aide reported nervously. "Another 43 have lost contact and are presumed captured or destroyed." Thexivor stared at the tactical display showing the shrinking area of Zephyrian control. The humans were advancing steadily toward the heart of the Empire, and nothing seemed able to stop them. "Send word to all fleet commanders," he ordered. "Full retreat to the core systems. We make our stand at the homeworlds." But Thexivor didn't know that human intelligence had been listening to his communications for months. Director Ben Lewis and his agents knew exactly where the Zephyrian fleet was going, and Admiral Carter was already planning how to destroy it. The storm had only just begun.